The surprise of many, like myself, who had put their love of Dark and Darker in a tight little box awaiting final rulings on various lawsuits in both the US and South Korea, Dark and Darker launched recently. This may have passed you by because the game can't actually launch on Steam due to those ongoing lawsuits, which, buyer beware, if you do end up getting Dark and Darker, I actually have no idea how this will work out if those lawsuits don't go in the favor of Iron Mace Studios. You may completely lose the game, so just something to think about. But the game has officially finally launched and you can play it right now. You can jump in, you can get into the PvPvE game that was such a viral hit a couple months ago before the whole issues with Nexon pulled it from and ended the playtest, making you have to go through torrents to download the game. Really, it was a time where we were enjoying a new and somewhat novel approach to the extraction shooter, a MMO light type game that focused on trying to engage you in high risk, high reward PvP thrown in with engaging PvE content that was fun and made you listen and think, and it was really just a crazy, interesting dungeon crawler. The only problem with that is the footage I have been showing you is not from Dark and Darker. This is perhaps one of the most blatant copies of any game that I have ever seen, except for maybe Terrace Land with World of Warcraft. But this is worse. This is somehow worse than that. And the funny thing is, the most interesting part of this is the entire reason why you can't get Dark and Darker on Steam is because of accusations of it being copied from Nexon. So this is like a copy of a copy of a copy, apparently. Greed is Good showed up on Steam recently as a tactical RPG PvPvE game. It has no release date and the studio, this fool studio, is brand new. There's a lot of mystery going on here with this near complete copy of Dark and Darker, one that actually looks a bit like an older version of Dark and Darker, one of its previous iterations in its playtest, especially given all the legal drama that's going on. As well as the fact that this studio has kind of an interesting name and has no history. It's completely brand new. On screen, you have a side-by-side of Dark and Darker gameplay and Greed is Good. There are some differences, all of them kind of bad. The sound design is less full. The video shows no PvP to speak of. The UI elements feel less polished and more rudimentary. Animations don't always fire, and they've randomly added huge 2D blood splashes to attacks, but otherwise it looks like a direct rip of the game. It's hard to say if this is a tongue-in-cheek joke by a fan of Dark and Darker, daring Nexon to send them a cease and desist as well, and have their game taken down from Steam. Or if it's probably more likely someone trying to capitalize off Dark and Darker's viral success months back and make a quick buck before the people realize the game isn't good or it's stolen. The name just feels kind of too on the nose. I want to believe that it's commentary in some way, perhaps based off of Nexon trying to prevent Dark and Darker from going to launch, or perhaps Dark and Darker with adding a new cash shop that was kind of the whole point of Dark and Darker not having one of those. Granted, it is mostly a cosmetic cash shop, and a lot of what you can get by in-game currency, but still, it's a cash shop in the game, which kind of alludes to what Iron Mace was saying months back when they were saying that they really didn't know how to monetize the game. So it sounds like that the pressure got to them, especially when they needed to find a new publisher. But the takeaway here is don't touch this game. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. The game is obviously a rip from Dark and Darker, right down to the marketing of the game. And the fact that it showed up on Steam kind of shortly after Dark and Darker launched, it's kind of telling in a lot of ways. But the irony of this, the funniest thing to me, is that we could be in a position where Dark and Darker may be the one issuing a DMCA takedown of greed is good if they went out on their legal cases. It's kind of funny how full circle that would take them from them getting the DMCA from Nexon. In the meantime, if you want to take a chance with Dark and Darker from Iron Mace, the game has launched into early access despite not being able to be listed on Steam. You can pick up Dark and Darker from the website or from their new publisher, Chaff Games. The game costs $35, or you can purchase the Founders Edition fittingly titled Hold the Line for $50, which grants you the skeleton race, a blue torch skin, and a Hold the Line emote. As reported by IGN, there's a few changes since the last time the game was played that people might want to take a look at. There's a new class, the Warlock, which joins the Bard as another new class that I didn't get to play in early access. There are also new monsters in the Goblin Caves, new loot drops, new balance changes, and of course, the new in-game shop. Buyer beware on this though, as I kind of mentioned in the outset, there are legal proceedings going forward in both Korea and the United States, and interestingly enough, the game is not available to be purchased in Korea. I'm assuming because of those legal proceedings that are going on. So just be cautious. If you plan to purchase Dark and Darker, probably just be okay with maybe losing that $35 or the $50 if you go with it that way. I wouldn't be putting a lot of money into the game right now, because it is still kind of in a little bit of legal limbo, and I don't know when or if we'll ever get a resolution to that. I'm not like very in depth on any of that stuff. I'm personally going to be sitting on the sidelines for a little while longer, probably for the rest of this year. There's plenty of other games for me to be playing. I'm still deep into Baldur's Gate 3. We've got Palia, the MMO, the lifestyle MMO that just went to closed beta. There's other games coming out. There's other expansions that are coming out. Guild Wars 2 is having an expansion this year. There's a lot to play if you want to. And apart from anything else, I am so in love with Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, that game is just fantastic, and it really has like all of my attention right now. My name is Redbird Flynn. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.